Linwood. Welcome back to my channel. You'll have to excuse my frog. Spring allergies is what it is. I just released my book last Thursday, so it's only been a few days, but it is so exciting. And I found out from one of the bookstores that it's sold in the store. And I know that most of the market share these days is digital, but there is just something in my little dinosaur bones that is so happy that I sold a book in a bookstore. So, the obvious question is what's next? And the obvious answer, it must involve sticky notes. At least, look at all the fun colors. I cannot be the only writer who's just, yes, give me more fun colors. So, my plan. I'm working on 2 writing projects, Project Gold and Project King. They are at very different stages. Project Gold is in the beginning stage of drafting. Yes, I'm finally done prepping. I'm just like, there's more prepping that could be done, but I am not by nature a prepper. I'm better off in the drafting stage. The other one, Project King, I am technically doing draft 4. Draft 3 was fairly complete. I thought I was done, but I had like 5 point of view characters, and I never stopped to think. Some of the characters were just there so that the reader would know some details, and I don't really want to have a character who's just there for I narrowed it down to 3, basically. So my idea is each point of view character should absolutely have their own arc. I'm not going to have a point of view character just for to give the reader information. That, to me, that felt like I was being lazy, or I think when I first started putting it together, I didn't really have the skills for multiple point of view writing. Hopefully that's changed. I have done a lot of professional development. So my plan is to have 3 point of views. 1 is clearly the main character, and then 2 are sort of supporting characters, but they each have their own significant arc. That's why this is the one that I said I have to add like 50 scenes to, even though I had a complete draft. So, in order to accomplish both of these projects, hopefully I will have 2 new finished drafts in my hands, 1 for each project, by the end of June. I will be doing a Kanban board. So I got sorry for the shine, I got a white marker board. Sorry. I got a white marker board and some Post-its, and I will have each point of view character has their own color. I plan to cut them in half because I don't want to waste Post-its on that. So I will set up part of the Kanban board and will be for one project, part for the other. And if you're not familiar with the concept of a Kanban board, it's sort of like a project management technique that I think it came out of Japan, but I couldn't swear to it. I know business people use it. So basically it has like a to-do, doing, and done section, and it helps you kind of focus in and make sure that you're always working on something that actually advances the project instead of, like spinning your wheels in planning mode. No one's ever done that. So, Kanban board. And I'm very excited to get started on that. I think for Project King, it will be easier because I already have like a full draft and I know exactly what scenes I need. I can do 1 sticky note per scene. For Project Gold, it will probably be a bit of a mixture, and I'll be adding to the to-do as I go. But in the meantime, I can have, like, it will be 15 sticky notes at least per character, because I am building towards a Save the Cat plotline. And if you're not familiar, Save the Cat Writes a Novel was based on, this one's by Jessica Brody, and it is my absolute favorite beat sheet. I know you might think a beat sheet would make something generic, but most of the books you've read follow a beat sheet, period, full stop, even the ones that they didn't plan to. It's just how a story is structured. It is descriptive more than prescriptive. So, like, if you look through Save the Cat Writes a Novel, Jessica Brody went through and applied it to a lot of existing novels. I think Pride and Prejudice was an example in here. So it's not just because the description is new doesn't mean the structure is new. So I will just have, one for each character, make sure that they go through a whole story arc within themselves. But then, tie it together. So that will be how I structure that one. And I can move the beats themselves as I go through. And I am looking forward to that. So that will probably take a while, but I think it'll be absolutely worth it. And then I will be focused on that, and I want to get my newsletter up and running. I don't have a ton of subscribers yet. And if you want to join my newsletter, evelynlinwood.com, it should be, you can join it there. Excuse me, spring allergies are really something. And they mowed my lawn today. So that will be my focus, these two projects, and I am just so excited to get started. As far as continuing professional development, I did mention in a previous video that I had quite a to-read list. So I'm currently reading Reflections on the Magic of Writing by Diana Wynne Jones. And so far, I would highly recommend it. I really, really really enjoyed her essay on The Lord of the Rings that was in that book. Because that was probably my gateway read that turned me into a fantasy reader. And while there are certainly valid criticisms of it just from a modern audience's enjoyment of that sort of narrative style, I think that the structure itself, the things that she picked up on that I just never even clued in on, despite that being a formative story for me, just blew my mind. So I highly recommend her book. Actually, that's not the only one that's jumped out at me. There was her insight into children's literature versus adult literature is probably a little outdated at this point. Just, I'm not very far in the book, but there were but really insightful for the history of publishing and fantasy and that kind of thing. It's just a really interesting read. I would say even if you're not a fantasy reader or writer, it's still so far it's a really interesting book to read. And it's just short essays, so it's pretty easy to just sit down and do one, and then, next time you read another. So I'm enjoying that, and then I am watching Brandon Sanderson's lectures on YouTube, which I had watched, I think it was the 2020 lectures, and now he's doing, 2025. And they're largely the same, but it's good to do a refresher with fresh everything. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I'm getting up to. There's the 2 writing projects, the reflections, and the Sanderson lectures. I'm reading a couple of books that are just for fun, and one for like personal development outside of career stuff. And I'm thinking that that's actually a very good reading structure for me. 2 fun books, 1 professional development book, and then 1 that's just like personal development or personal interest. Like, it doesn't have to be psychology or religion. It can be, random interests. But I do think that that is a fun way to keep myself reading. There was something else. Oh, I have a writing group now. In-person writing group. Actually, two writing groups. I joined a mastermind, which so far I'm really, really loving. If you have a chance to do a mastermind, I think it's a great concept. And then the other one is in person, so I won't say where that is just because, internet. But if you are writing, and I know writing is an individual pursuit, but it does not need to be a lonely one, and it does not need to be a solitary one. If you are writing by yourself, it's a great thing to join groups, whether online or in person. Find that support. Writing is not easy. There are some people who can sit down and write so many pages all the time with no thinking. There are some people who can't not write. I'm not one of them, but they do exist. But even if that's you, connecting with other writers just is important, And if you want to take writing seriously or make it a profession, then absolutely, every profession, people connect with colleagues. So I recommend it. There won't be any real writing on today's vlog. It's just lunch and then what's next. I did have a fun little dinner party with my parents and my in-laws and my brother. And that was fun. It made it feel real. I got balloons. Yeah. So if you watched this long, thank you for joining me for my little, I won't call it a writing vlog because there's no writing, but my publishing vlog. And I hope I see you next time, where hopefully you will get to see some portion of my Kanban, because I'm not going to show every scene in a project that's not out yet. But I will hopefully have that done and be well into both projects. Don't forget to like and subscribe.